Santa Clarita's hometown station, KHTS. It's the Hometown Morning Show with Tori and Kyle. Make sure you go to hometownstation.com for all the latest and greatest Santa Clarita has to offer. And speaking of the greatest Santa Clarita has to offer, Myles McNamara in studio once again. Myles, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Hi, thank you, Kyle.
Oh, Myles McNamara. How are you, Malika? What's happening? I haven't seen you for like a month or so.
I know. Just the same old stuff, bobbing, weaving like the rest of the world.
Yeah, I'm doing a little bobbing.
Yeah.
A little weaving. Myles is from a really special place here in town, and it's Home Keepers, Comfort Keepers in home care. And the reason it's so special, it's local, and he just is in on it, and he takes personal care of you as far as your needs and gets you to the right people. And we're going to talk all about that. But first, for any listeners who, and I can't imagine this being, Myles, I can't imagine.
You'd be surprised. You don't know what's there until you need it.
Not hearing of you and Comfort Keepers. But for those of our listeners, maybe new listeners on FM, right? Explain exactly what it is and who you are, and then we'll get into specifics.
Absolutely. I'm Myles McNamara, as you said. I'm the owner of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. We've been in Santa Clarita almost 18 years. And it'd be amazing that people don't know. It's like silver cars. You don't know how many are out there till you buy it, and then every car is silver. I have a lot of people come up to me and say, gee, I wished I knew you were here when I was struggling with mom or dad. And that's just it. Folks don't understand in-home care. They, because it gets confused even by doctors and nurses that, in-home care is not in-home health. Home health is where you have a nurse come in as prescribed by your doctor. They come in for an hour or less, take care of whatever medical issues there are. Home care is an extended helping hand with the activities of daily living that our seniors need to stay in their own home independently. Unfortunately, we're not covered by insurance like home health is, but a lot of times all our seniors need to stay in their own home is somebody to make sure they're eating their meals, helping them in and out of the shower, getting them to their doctor's appointments, just everything we would do as an adult child, which a lot of us are sandwiched in, which is why we're called the sandwich generation, is because we're caring for our aging parents and we're also caring for our own kids. So we're kind of sandwiched into getting the kids to soccer practice and then running over and making sure mom or dad ate or took their medications, then running back and picking up the kids and going home and cooking their own dinner, then checking in on mom and dad to see if they got it in bed okay. It's just exhausting.
It's exhausting, and that's what we're going to talk about. I have to take a quick traffic break, Myles, but after traffic, we're going to talk about something that you mentioned right at the beginning when you started to explain who you are. We don't realize this stuff is available to us until it's too late.
Right.
And so what we have to get, the word we have to get out is it's got to be a proactive thing. And my mom and dad always told me, plan your funeral and those things while you're in good health and you're happy and all of that kind of stuff. So when it does come time, it's all ready. And people who are sad and can't think straight and are crying, do be proactive about
have a plan.
Have a plan. And that's what we're going to talk about. Let me just quickly, it's 8:49 coming up on 8:50, talking right now with Myles McNamara, who is the owner of the local in-home care. It's called Comfort Keepers. And we were talking, Myles, before I had to do traffic and break away for a second. You got to be proactive about this stuff. No one likes to think that you don't like to think that your parents might need some help at a certain point. I know I looked at my parents and they were my heroes, and all of a sudden they weren't. And it's because of, people age and they get slower and they lose memory and they have a fall, a little bit of a spill, and things happen. And then you're left with picking up the pieces and where do I go? What do I do? And,
right.
And sometimes it's just as simple as companionship. I know that when my mom passed away, my dad, was lonely and needed just a friendly face to play a game of cards or watch TV or go to a movie. And
a lot of times it goes a lot deeper than that. I mean, and we, talked about having a plan, and we talked about being proactive rather than reactive. I mean, obviously, if mom or dad falls and breaks a hip or they have a stroke or something that really mandates home care versus a skilled nursing facility, then yeah, you're going to call Comfort Keepers. But I want people, I always try, kind of try to use, euphemisms or metaphors in that if we don't take our vitamins and we don't exercise and we don't eat right, we will get sick, fat, diabetic, whatever.
Sure.
It's the same with our seniors, and especially if there's been a life event like the passing of a spouse or something. I get so many calls from adult kids who did hear about us and we don't need you yet, and I'm like, well, are you sure? Because maybe mom didn't break a hip, but maybe she's sitting at home alone in the dark, depressed, isolated, and you've got to do something about that.
Not eating correctly.
Right. So companionship is such an undersold part of what we do because suicide, again, among seniors is very, very high. And if there's been a life event and they're sitting at home and they're depressed and they're isolated, you know what? Get them out and about. Get a comfort keeper in there. Put some light in their life. Get them back engaged in society. What did they do in the past that they're not doing now? So be proactive. Don't wait for the end result that, doesn't give you a choice. But take a good, strong look at, first of all, your life is the adult kids, like I talked about before the break, that sandwich generation running around trying to do everything. And then look at, the proactive portion of, don't let that slip and fall happen in the shower. Don't let that, malnutrition or dehydration or, whatever the case may be. But companionship is so huge that keeps our seniors engaged and in the light, so to speak. I hate to, when you walk in and my care manager will do an assessment and she'll say it's dark and the drapes were pulled and, and they're just sitting in a dark, that's heartbreaking.
Right.
So again, think of those proactive measures to help mom or dad be more independent. And as we take on some of those chores as a comfort keeper or a caregiver, then you can go over when you have time and be the son or daughter and not the caregiver running around, filling the cabinets, cleaning the house, doing the laundry, doing all the things that
exactly
instead of sitting and having quality time with your parents.
Question for you. So let me give you a scenario. So you're one of those people that said, no, we're not ready for you yet. But you're starting to see just a little bit of difference, maybe the older, the mom, dad saying, I'm fine, and they're kind of fighting it. But
well,
you start
let me just add, I've never met a senior who needs help, so keep that in mind.
Oh, really?
Oh, absolutely. They're independent. They're proud. They don't want to be a burden. So yeah, So
you're never going to get really a voluntary, hey, I need some help here. You pretty
sometimes
much have
we do. It's the exception, not the rule. But sometimes we have seniors that just say, "Yay, come on in, let's have some fun." But more often than not, like I said, seniors, they want their independence and they should be given it. They want their, they don't want to be a burden. They're a proud generation. Give them the dignity and respect. But sometimes when our parents say, "Oh, I'm fine," we can't take that at face value anymore.
That's the question. So if you start to see perhaps you go and visit and maybe there isn't a lot of food in the fridge or the laundry's piling up or maybe there are a couple of spills that have been on the kitchen counter for a couple of days, are those red flags? And we really should start paying attention, even though it seems as though they're getting along fine. Should those act as red flags and maybe take a little bit of a deeper look?
Right. And there's so many different moving parts there, Tori, in that, because short-term memory loss or dementia, don't wait till the horse is completely out of the barn, another metaphor, is that, is mom and dad should be having annual physicals and checkups and maybe even time for a neurological workup to see if there's any kind of diagnosis of dementia, Alzheimer's, etc. But, it's the kind of thing where you do need to pay attention to the red flags. And, and if things are starting to happen, that mom always was nicely put together and fresh clothes, and dad always was meticulous about certain and now you're starting to see that don't miss the forest for the trees, because it's like, especially when you're just talking to them on the phone. "Oh, I'm fine. Yeah, how are the kids? The weather's been hot." Yeah, and you talk about those superficial subjects.
Right.
But you've got to get into the meat and taters of things and really spend some time. That's why the holidays are really important. I talked about it during the holidays when we see our parents once a year maybe. And let them drive when you do an errand. Let them help, really pay attention. And it sounds there's so much possibility of being disrespectful, the bull in the china shop, the know-it-all. So keep that in mind. Don't go in there like you are the know-it-all. Your parents should have been your heroes. If not, they are proud. They want to be independent. And that's what Comfort Keepers offers. We want to give them that opportunity to stay independent in their own home. That's what we tell our clients. You're still the boss. We're just here. We're like don't even use the word caregiver. We're like a personal valet or a concierge service. We'll come in and we'll do the things that maybe they need a helping hand with. I mean, we've all hired help through our entire life. We've hired gardeners and housekeepers and carpenters. And, so the same thing with a Comfort Keeper is we can come in and do the things that they're, having a challenge with, and it allows them to stay safely and independently in their own home.
Another scenario for you before we have to break away, Myles. Have you ever run into perhaps a married couple and one agrees we need help and the other one's like, I'm being forced to do this. My parents don't need help. Have you ever kind of had to get in the middle of a yes-no situation?
All the time, and you've got to really understand the dynamics and talk through me because, again, our seniors, they took care of each other. So, I mean, we've got a senior who's like, I don't need you. I can take care of my wife. I've done it for 50 years. I don't need you. And vice versa. The wife is, I've taken care of my husband for, so you get that a lot. So, it again is you handle it with respect. You try to use logic, but again, both may not be cognitively 100%. So every case is different. Every dynamic is different. The family dynamics are different. Our biggest tool a lot of times are the physicians. If the doctors get involved, and because especially our seniors, not so much the baby boomers and younger, in no means is they believe what their doctor says. So if this doctor says something to our senior, it carries a lot of weight for us.
Yeah.
Baby boomers and younger, not so much. They challenge and Google everything. But we really, ask for the help of their physicians a lot because, again, there's a need there. We're not going to come in and say, yeah, you need it if you don't. But if there is a need there and we do the assessment, we talk to the family, and we, do an overall look-see, if you will, you should be able to approach it logically, but then keep in mind there's not logic that works when you're dealing with someone who's cognitively slipping.
Every case is different. And that brings us, before we have to break, Myles, one last thing on the assessment. Can our listeners call you for an assessment? Will you come over and just look at things and say, you know what, maybe not right now, but we're looking probably, 60 to 90 days. You might want to put it back on the table. Do you come over or your associates come over to the house and do this sort of thing?
Every beginning of service starts with that, with the in-home assessment with my nurse care manager. Okay. But there's no charge or obligation to that. If you just want to find out more about Comfort Keepers and have that conversation with your parents and explore the possibility, there's no charge, there's no obligation. We'd come in, we'd sit down with the family, we could explain the home care, the care plan that could best benefit everybody. And because again, you want to be proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. And that brings us to our next point. Phone number, Myles. Let's let our listeners know how they can get in touch with you guys. 661-287-4200,
661-287-4200, or just go to comfortkeepers.com.
That was my next question. The website, comfortkeepers.com. Myles, it's always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Tori.